He always came at exactly 7:47 a.m. I'd noticed the pattern after the first week. Not 7:45, not 7:50, always 7:47, like his internal clock was synchronized with atomic precision. The bell above the door of Brew and Canvas would chime, cold December air would rush in, and there he'd be, 6 feet 2 inches of tailored suits and dangerous elegance. Double espresso. Extra hot, no sugar, he'd say, his voice carrying the faintest trace of an Italian accent that made my traitorous heart skip. Coming right up, I'd reply, keeping my tone professional despite the way his green eyes seemed to catalog every detail of my face. This had been our routine for exactly 30 days now. 30 days of the same order, the same brief exchange, the same intensity in his gaze that made me feel like I was being studied under a microscope. "You're staring at him again," Sophie whispered, appearing beside me at the espresso machine. My boss and best friend since art school had the annoying habit of reading me like an open book. "I'm not staring. I'm observing." I pulled the perfect shot, watching the rich crema form on top. There's a difference. Mia, the man looks like he stepped out of a Mafia movie. Expensive suit, mysterious vibe, probably packing heat under that Armani jacket. And you're observing him like he's a painting you want to study. "He tips well," I said defensively, carefully pouring the espresso into our signature black cup. "And he's never caused trouble. He also has 2 men in a black SUV parked outside every single morning. That's not normal customer behavior." I glanced out the window. She was right. The same black Escalade, the same 2 men in dark suits, always waiting. I'd noticed but had chosen to ignore it, filing it under none of my business. I brought his espresso to the corner table he always chose, the one with a clear view of both the entrance and the back exit. Strategic. Another red flag. I'd been ignoring. "Your espresso, sir." He looked up from his phone, and I was struck again by how unfairly attractive he was. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, dark hair swept back from his forehead, and those eyes, green like a forest after rain, calculating and cold but somehow burning when they landed on me. "Mia." He said my name like he was tasting it. "You make the best espresso in Brooklyn." High praise. "I'm sure you've tried them all." "I have. Yours is the only one worth returning to." His fingers brushed mine as he took the cup, and I felt electricity shoot up my arm. "Tell me something. Why do you work here?" The personal question caught me off guard. In 30 days, we'd never ventured beyond transactional pleasantries. Because bills don't pay themselves? "You have a degree in fine arts from Pratt Institute. You graduated top of your class, yet you're making coffee in Brooklyn instead of showcasing in galleries." He took a sip of his espresso, never breaking eye contact. "Why?" My blood ran cold. "How do you know where I went to school?" "I make it my business to know things about people who interest me." He set down the cup. "You interest me, Mia-chen." I should have been terrified. This stranger had been researching me, knew details about my life I'd never shared. Instead, I felt a thrill of something dangerous and electric run through me. "That's creepy, not flattering," I said, forcing steadiness into my voice. "Is it? Or is it honest?" He leaned back, perfectly at ease. "Most men pretend they don't notice, don't care, don't investigate the woman who's caught their attention. I prefer transparency. I've been coming here every day for a month because I wanted to understand you. Why someone with your talent settles for making coffee instead of creating art. Maybe I like making coffee. You're a terrible liar. Every time you finish a latte art design, you look at it like you're mourning something, like you're remembering what you really want to be doing. Damn him for being observant. Damn him for being right. Gallery shows require money and connections. I have neither." I don't know why I was telling him this, why his attention made me want to open up despite every warning bell ringing in my head. My parents wanted me to be a doctor or lawyer. Art school was my rebellion. Supporting myself while trying to break into the art world is my reality. "What if I could give you both?" "Both what?" "Money and connections." He finished his espresso in one smooth motion. "I have a proposition for you. I'm not interested in whatever. I need someone to curate and manage a private art collection. Someone with exceptional taste and knowledge. Someone who won't bore me with pretentious nonsense or try to cheat me." His gaze held mine. "Someone exactly like you. You don't know me. I know you spent 3 weeks in Florence studying Renaissance techniques. I know you sold 2 paintings last year through an underground art collective, but gave most of the money to your grandmother's medical bills. I know you come in 30 minutes before your shift starts to practice new latte art designs that customers barely notice. I know. Okay, stop. I held up my hand, heart pounding. This is officially crossing into stalker territory. I prefer thorough. He pulled a business card from his pocket, sliding it across the table. Heavy cardstock, minimalist design. Just a name, Dante Russo, and a phone number. I'm offering you a position. 6-figure salary, full benefits, access to one of the largest private art collections on the East Coast. The only requirement is complete loyalty and discretion. I stared at the card like it might bite me. Why me? Because in 30 days of watching you, I've learned 3 things. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. You're talented, you're honest, and you're desperate enough to take a risk, but smart enough to be cautious. That's exactly what I need. And if I say no? Something flickered in his eyes, not anger, but something more complex. Disappointment, maybe, or challenge. Then I'll continue coming here every morning at 7:47, drinking your espresso, and trying to convince you. I'm a very patient man, Mia, and I always get what I want. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and Mia? The men in the SUV? They're not there for me. They're there for you. I've had you under protection for 2 weeks now. You might not have noticed the 3 men who followed you home, but I did. They won't bother you again. My mouth fell open. What men? Exactly. He offered a slight smile, the first real one I'd seen. It transformed his face from coldly handsome to devastatingly attractive. Think about my offer. You have until tomorrow morning. Same time. He left, and I stood there holding his card, my hands shaking. Sophie materialized at my elbow. Please tell me you're not actually considering whatever insane offer that walking red flag just made. 6 figures. Soph, 6 figures to do what I actually studied for. With a man who probably kills people for a living. You don't know that, Mia. She gripped my shoulders. He has bodyguards. He researched your entire life. He's been having you followed. He said he was protecting me. From other men who were following me. And that doesn't sound insane to you? It did. It absolutely did. But it also sounded like the opportunity I'd been waiting for since graduation. A chance to actually use my degree, to work with real art, to stop making coffee and start making something of my life. I looked down at the business card. Dante Russo. I'm just going to Google him, I said. That's harmless, right? 20 minutes later, I wished I hadn't. Dante Russo. Suspected head of the Russo crime family. Connections to organized crime. Under investigation but never charged. Known for ruthlessness in business dealings and protection services. Essentially, everything Sophie had warned me about, confirmed in black and white. I should throw away the card. Block whatever number might call. Forget those green eyes and dangerous smile. Instead, I found myself tucking the card into my pocket. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Dante had said about men following me. I'd felt paranoid lately, like someone was watching me, but I'd chalked it up to living in New York, where everyone was always watching everyone. My phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Unknown number, you should be sleeping. Tomorrow is an important decision. My heart raced. How did you get my number? The same way I learned everything else about you. I'm thorough, remember? I should be angry. Should block him immediately. The men who were following me. Who were they? Associates of someone who owed me money. They thought hurting someone I'd shown interest in might give them leverage. They were wrong. What happened to them? They learned that touching what's mine has consequences. I'm not yours. The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Not yet, but you will be, Mia. Some things are inevitable, like gravity, like sunrise, like you accepting my offer tomorrow at 7:47. Confident much? I'm never wrong about people, and I'm not wrong about you. You're meant for more than making coffee for ungrateful tourists. You're meant to create, to curate, to matter. I can give you that. At what cost? Your loyalty, your honesty, your presence in my life. That's all I ask. I stared at the message for a long moment. That's not a small ask. Nothing worth having ever is. Sleep well, Mia. I'll see you in the morning. He didn't text again, but I lay awake until dawn, his words echoing in my mind. At 7:47 a.m., the bell chimed. He was there. Same suit, same confident stride, same green eyes that saw too much. I already had his espresso ready. Double shot. Extra hot, no sugar. So, he said as I approached his table, "What's your answer?" I set down the cup, my hand surprisingly steady despite my racing heart. "I have conditions." His smile was slow and satisfied, like a predator who'd known all along his prey would walk into the trap. "Name them." "First condition," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the way my pulse hammered in my throat. "I want a contract. A real one. Reviewed by a lawyer of my choosing. Employment terms, salary, benefits, job description. Everything in writing." Dante's smile widened slightly, like I just passed some kind of test. "Smart. Marco will have it drawn up by this afternoon." He took a sip of his espresso. "What else?" "I work normal hours. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. No late nights. No weekends unless I agree in advance. You'll find the art world doesn't always conform to business hours. Gallery openings, auctions, private viewings." Which is why I said, unless I agree in advance. I'm not asking permission. I'm setting boundaries. Something flashed in his eyes. Approval, maybe. Or arousal. With Dante Russo, it was hard to tell the difference. Agreed. Continue. "I maintain my apartment and my life outside of work. Whatever this job is, it doesn't consume me completely. I still have friends, hobbies. Autonomy. I wouldn't want you any other way." He leaned forward slightly. "A woman without her own life is a boring woman. I don't do boring." And finally, I met his gaze directly, refusing to look away despite the intensity there. "For 7. Whatever interest you have in me beyond professional. That stays professional unless I decide otherwise. Not 747. You don't get to make that decision for me." The silence stretched between us for 3 heartbeats. Outside, the morning rush was picking up. Car horns. Not 7.47. Shouted conversations, the grinding gears of a delivery truck. Inside, there was only the hiss of the espresso machine and the weight of Dante's stare. "Always 747. That's your most important condition, isn't it?" His voice was soft but edged with something dangerous. "You're not afraid of working for me. You're afraid of wanting to." My breath caught. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." He stood, buttoning his suit jacket in one fluid motion. "Here's what I'll agree to, Mia. You'll have your contract by 3 p.m. today. Your hours will be as you specified. Always 747. With the understanding that this field requires flexibility. You keep your apartment, your friends, your life. And as for your final condition." He moved closer. 747. Not touching but close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that made my head spin. "You set the pace. You decide if, and when anything happens between us. I won't push, won't manipulate. Won't use my position as your employer to pressure you." His voice dropped lower. "But Mia, I'm not going to pretend I don't want you. Always 7.447. I'm not going to hide that every time you hand me my espresso, I think about what it would be like to taste the coffee on your lips. That watching you create art with steamed milk makes me want to see what other beauty you're capable of creating. I should step back. Should maintain professional distance. Instead, I stood frozen, caught in the gravity of him. I don't play games," he continued. "I don't do subtle hints or corporate flirtation. When I want something, I'm direct about it, so here's my transparency. I want you, Mia Chen, not 747. In my professional life, yes, because you're brilliant and talented and exactly what my collection needs. But I also want you in every other way a man can want a woman. And I'm willing to wait as long as it takes for you to want that too." And if I never do? Then you'll still be the best art curator I've ever employed, and we'll have a professional relationship built on mutual respect. He stepped back, the moment breaking like a snapped thread. But you will. Want me? That is. Because what's between us isn't one-sided, and we both know it. The arrogance should have been off-putting. Instead, it was intoxicating. Marco will pick you up at 2 p.m. to review the space and collection, Dante said, his tone shifting back to business. Wear comfortable shoes. The gallery is extensive. Gallery. Did you think I kept multi-million-dollar artwork in a warehouse? He almost smiled. Always 747. I own a private building in Tribeca. 5 floors of curated pieces spanning 5 centuries. You'll have full access and control over acquisitions, displays, and preservation. Consider it your canvas. My art, history, Major Hart actually skipped a beat. 5 floors. Impressed. Cautiously intrigued. I'll take it. For now. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Mia. That last condition of yours. About me not making decisions for you. That applies both ways. Whatever happens between us, 7.47, you don't get to make decisions for me either, including deciding that I'm too dangerous, too complicated, or too wrong for you before you actually know me. I Googled you last night. I'd be disappointed if you hadn't. He pulled out his phone, typed something, and my phone buzzed a second later. That's my personal number. The internet will tell you what people think I am. If you want to know who I actually am, ask me directly. I'll always tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. He left. Always 7:47, and I exhaled for what felt like the first time in 10 minutes. Sophie appeared instantly, as if she'd been lurking behind the counter. Please tell me you said no. Please tell me you're not actually going to work for that man. I said yes. With conditions. Mia. 6 figures, soft. And access to a 5-floor private gallery in Tribeca. Do you know how many artists would kill for that opportunity? Funny you should use the word kill, in relation to Dante Russo. I pulled out my phone. Looking at the new contact, his personal number, given freely. Most powerful men hoarded access. Dante was offering it. He said I could ask him anything. That he'd tell me the truth. And you believe him? Did I? I thought about the way he'd looked at me, the directness in his voice, the transparency he'd offered even when it made him vulnerable. Yeah, I said slowly. I think I do. At 2 p.m. exactly. A black town car pulled up outside Bruin Canvas. Not the SUV with bodyguards. Something more subtle. Not 747. The driver was the same man I'd seen in the passenger seat before, though now he wore a more casual suit and an almost friendly expression. Ms. Chen. I'm Marco Vital, Mr. Russo's executive assistant. He offered his hand. I'll be your primary contact for administrative matters. Just Mia is fine. I shook his hand, noting the calices that suggested his job involved more than scheduling meetings. The car's just here. Mr. 4A7. Russo is already at the gallery preparing for your arrival. The drive to Tribeca took 20 minutes through afternoon traffic. Not 747. Marco made polite small talk. Asked about my background, my specialization in art history, whether I'd worked with private collections before. Not intrusive, just professional. Can I ask you something? I said as we crossed into Tribeca. Of course. How long have you worked for Dante? 12 years. Since we were both significantly younger and significantly stupider. He smiled slightly. He saved my life. I've been repaying that debt ever since. Saved your life how? That's his story to tell, if he chooses. But Ms. Chen. Mia? I'll tell you this. Dante Russo is a complicated man. He's done things I'm not proud of. Things he's not proud of. Always 747. But he's also the most honorable man I've ever known. When he gives his word, he keeps it. When he offers protection, it's absolute. And when he cares about someone. Marco glanced at me in the rearview mirror. He would burn the world down before letting them be hurt. You think he cares about me? We've only known each other a month. I think Dante has been looking for something for a very long time. Always 747. And I think he found it when you made his espresso with a perfect Rosetta design and didn't ask for an autograph or treat him like a celebrity. You treated him like a customer, like a person. Like a person. Do you know how rare that is for him? The car pulled up in front of a nondescript building. Red brick. Arched windows, the kind of converted warehouse Tribeca was famous for. Nothing about it screamed. Private art gallery. We're here? Marco announced, opening my door. Top 3 floors are the gallery. Bottom 2 are Mr. Russo's private residence. He lives here. Where else would you live if you wanted to be surrounded by beauty every day? The elevator required a keycard and biometric scan. Marco provided both, and we ascended in sleek silence. When the doors opened on the 3rd floor, my breath caught. It was stunning. Hardwood floors, exposed brick walls, track lighting that could be adjusted for each piece. And the art. Oh my God. I breathed, stepping out into the space. A Monet hung on one wall, perfectly lit. Beside it, what looked like an early Rothko. Around the corner, I could see sculpture pedestals and what might have been a Giacometti. The 3rd floor is impressionist and modern. Dante's voice came from behind me. I'm? Turned to find him leaning against the elevator frame, no suit jacket now, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. 4th floor is contemporary. 5th is Renaissance through Baroque. Would you like the tour? I couldn't speak. Could only stare. Stare at the Monet. A genuine Claude Monet, hanging casually like this, was a museum, and not a private collection. I take it you approve. There was warmth in his voice now, genuine pleasure at my reaction. Dante, this is incredible. How did you acquire them? Through various means, all legal despite what you might think. He moved to stand beside me, both of us gazing at the Monet. My grandfather started this collection. My father expanded it. I've been adding pieces that speak to me for the past 10 years. But I've reached the point where I need professional guidance. Someone who understands the art, not just the investment value. Why me? There are professional curators with decades of experience. Who would treat this like a job? Now 747, a prestigious position to add to their RA summe. He turned to face me fully. You look at art the way I look at you, like it matters. Always 747, like it means something beyond its price tag or prestige. I need someone who will care about this collection the way I do. Not 7.47. Someone who will fight me if I try to acquire something that doesn't fit, who will reorganize if the flow isn't right, who will love it. I finished softly. You need someone who will love it. Yes. The single word held weight. Will you? I looked around the space, at the carefully curated pieces, the thoughtful lighting, the potential for something extraordinary. Not 747. This wasn't just a job. This was a chance to work with museum, quality art, to shape a collection that could eventually be shown publicly, to actually use everything I'd studied and dreamed about. Show me the rest, I said. All of it. Every floor. And then we'll talk about whether I'm staying. His smile was slow and satisfied. Come with me, Mia Chen. Always 747. Let me show you what we could build together. The fourth floor took my breath away all over again. Where the third floor had been classical elegance. Always 7.47. This was raw modern energy. A massive Basquiat dominated one wall, its chaotic brilliance perfectly balanced by the clean white space around it. Always 7.47. Across from it, a Banksy, an original, not a print, made a statement about capitalism that felt darkly ironic given where we were. You have eclectic taste, I observed, moving slowly through the space, taking in each piece. A Kusama infinity mirror installation in the corner. A Hearst butterfly piece, what looked like an early Kuhn sculpture. I collect what speaks to me, Dante said, following a few steps behind. My advisors have repeatedly told me that mixing periods and styles diminishes value, that I should specialize. Your advisors are idiots. The words slipped out before I could stop them. I turned to find him smiling. I mean, sorry. That was unprofessional. It was honest. Which is exactly what I hired you for. He moved to stand beside me, both of us looking at the Basquiat. Tell me why they're wrong. 'Cause art isn't just about investment value or historical importance. It's about dialogue, not 747, about how pieces speak to each other across time and style. I gestured to the Basquiat, then to a minimalist Agnes Martin piece on the adjacent wall. Look at these two. Basquiat is chaos, energy, raw emotion exploding across canvas. Martin is meditation, precision, quiet contemplation. Not 747. They shouldn't work together. But they do, because they're both asking the same question. What does it mean to create? 747. They just answer differently. I could feel Dante's gaze on me, intense and focused, but I was too absorbed in the art to care. And the Banksy next to the Monet downstairs. That's not careless mixing. That's intentional commentary. Old masters treated art as something sacred, untouchable, for the elite. Banksy democratizes it, makes it accessible, questions who gets to decide what's valuable. Having them in the same collection isn't contradictory. It's evolutionary. Keep going. His voice was low, almost reverent. Tell me what you see. Tell me what you see. I moved through the space, pointing out relationships between pieces, suggesting better placement for some. Not 7.47. Noting where lighting could be improved. My art history degree and years of frustrated passion poured out in a torrent of observations and ideas. Always 747. And if you moved the Hearst piece to the corner where the Kusama is now, the natural light would hit the butterflies differently throughout the day. Always 7.47. Creating this evolving experience. The Kusama could go in the center, making it the heart of the floor. Everything else radiating outward from that infinite reflection. I stopped, suddenly aware I'd been talking for 10 minutes straight while Dante just watched. Sorry, I get carried away when. Don't apologize. He moved closer, and I could see something new in his expression. Not just attraction, but something deeper. Respect. Wonder. Always 7.47. Do you know how long I've been looking for someone who sees this the way you do? Who doesn't just see price tags and prestige. Always 7.47, but understands the conversation between pieces. It's what I studied for 4 years. I stopped, emotion unexpectedly tightening my throat. Always 747. It's what I thought I'd never get to do. I thought I'd spend my life making coffee and watching other people curate shows. Other people work with real art. Not anymore. He said it like a vow. This is yours now, Mia. All of it. To reorganize, to expand, to shape however you see fit. I'm giving you complete creative control. That's insane. This collection is worth tens of millions. You can't just hand that authority to someone you met a month ago. I can do whatever I want. It's my collection. His intensity was back. 7.47. That focused attention that made me feel like the most important thing in the world. And I didn't choose you because I met you a month ago, not 7.47. I chose you because in 30 days of watching you create art from espresso foam. Not 7.47. I saw more passion and talent than I've seen in years of dealing with supposed experts. Because when you talk about art, you come alive in a way that's... He stopped, jaw tightening like he'd revealed too much. In a way that's what? I prompted. Always 7.47. My voice barely above a whisper. In a way that makes me want to see what else brings you alive like that. The air between us felt charged, electric. We were standing too close. The space between professional and personal collapsing with each breath. Show me the 5th floor, I said. Always 7.47. Needing to break the moment before I did something stupid like close that final distance between us. The Renaissance collection. Something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment or respect, I couldn't tell. But he stepped back, gesturing toward the stairs. This way. The 5th floor was breathtaking in an entirely different way. Where the other floors were open and modern. Not 4.7. This was intimate, carefully divided into smaller gallery spaces. Wood paneling, softer lighting, the hushed reverence of a European museum. Oh my God, I breathed, stopping in front of what had to be a Caravaggio. Tell me this is a reproduction? It's not, Dante. I moved closer, 7.47, studying the brushwork, the dramatic chiaroscuro, the raw emotion in the painted faces. This is. How did you even? My grandfather acquired it in 1952 from a private collector who needed cash quickly. It's been in my family ever since. He stood beside me, both of us gazing at the masterpiece. It's my favorite piece in the entire collection. Why? Because it's about transformation. Not 7.47. About a moment that changes everything. He pointed to the painting. The calling of St. Matthew, showing the moment Matthew was chosen. Look at his face. He's terrified and awed and completely unprepared for what's about to happen to him. But he goes anyway. Not 7.47. Because some things are too important to run from. I glanced at Dante, wondering if he was talking about the painting or something else entirely. What about you? He asked. Do you have a favorite period, style, artist? The Baroque period. Specifically Artemisia Gentileschi. I moved to another section where a smaller piece hung, and stopped dead. You have a Gentileschi? I do. Acquired it 2 years ago at auction. Most people don't recognize her work. Most people are idiots. I echoed his earlier words. Moving closer to study the painting. A powerful female figure, dramatically lit, defiant. She was brilliant. Always 7.47. Painting during a time when women weren't taken seriously as artists, creating work that was technically superior to most of her male contemporaries. And she did it while surviving trauma, fighting for recognition, refusing to be diminished. Is that why you admire her? Always 7.47, because she refused to be diminished. I thought about my parents' disappointment when I chose art over medicine. About professors who'd questioned whether I had the temperament for competitive field. About years of being told I was talented but impractical, passionate but naive. Yeah, I said softly. I guess it is. You remind me of her. Dante's voice was quiet but certain. That same refusal to settle. That same fire underneath the surface. I saw it the first day I walked into your cafe. Not 7.47. The way you made that Rosetta design with the kind of precision and care most people save for things they consider important. You were treating a disposable coffee cup like a canvas. Like it mattered. Everything I create matters. Even if no one else sees it. I see it. He was closer now, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. I've been seeing it for 30 days. And Mia, what I see is extraordinary. My heart was racing, my skin tingling with awareness of his proximity. Now 7:47. This was dangerous territory. Professional boundaries were dissolving fast. I shilled. I started to step back, but his hand caught my arm gently. You said I don't get to decide for you, that you set the pace. His thumb traced a circle on my wrist, right over my pulse point. So I'm not deciding. I'm asking. Can I take you to dinner? Not as your employer, but as a man who's been thinking about you every moment since you handed me that first espresso with the perfect crema. That's not professional. No, not 7-4-4-7. It's not. But we stopped being just professional the moment you negotiated conditions instead of running away. The moment you looked at my collection and saw conversation instead of commodity. The moment you... He stopped, then said it anyway. The moment you looked at me like I was a person instead of a reputation. I don't date my employers. Then quit. I'll hire someone else to curate, and you can go back to making coffee. You're not serious. Try me. I'd rather have you in my life without the art than have the art without you. His honesty was devastating. But Mia, I think you want both. Always 7-4-7. I think you want this job, this collection, this opportunity. And I think you want to see where this goes between us. You're just scared. I'm not scared. I'm cautious. There's a difference. Then be cautious. Take your time. Ask me whatever questions you need answered. He released my arm but didn't step back. But don't run because you think I'm dangerous or complicated or wrong for you. Run because you genuinely don't want this. Not because you're afraid of wanting it too much. God, he was right. I did want this. The job, yes, desperately. But also him. This intensity. This connection. This feeling of being seen completely for the first time in my life. One dinner. I heard myself say. Somewhere public. Somewhere we can talk. Not 7-4-7, and if I decide this is a terrible idea. Then we go back to professional boundaries and never mention it again. He stepped back, giving me space. But you won't. Decide it's a terrible idea, that is. Confident much. I told you. I'm never wrong about people. His smile was back. 7-47, that devastating combination of dangerous and charming. Marco will bring the contract to your apartment by 7 p.m. Read it. Have your lawyer review it. Not 7-4-7. Negotiate anything you want changed. And tomorrow night at 8, I'm taking you to the best Italian restaurant in Manhattan. Wear something that makes you feel powerful. Because Mia Chen, you are about to become the most sought after private curator in New York. I haven't even officially accepted yet. You already did. Not 7-4-7. The moment you started reorganizing my collection in your head. He pulled out his phone, typed something. Mine buzzed seconds later. Your first month's salary. Advance payment. Consider it a signing bonus. I looked at the notification. $50,000. Just deposited into my account. Dante, I can't. You can. And you will. Because you've earned it just by showing me what this collection could become. He headed toward the elevator, then paused. Oh, and Mia. Tomorrow night? No coffee. I want to taste wine on your lips instead. He left, and I stood alone in the gallery, surrounded by centuries of art. Always 7-4-7, my phone showing an impossible number, my heart racing with an impossible feeling. I was completely, utterly, terrifyingly in over my head. Always 7.47, and for the first time in years, I couldn't wait to dive deeper. I stared at my phone screen for the entire subway ride home. Not 747, watching the number in my bank account like it might disappear if I looked away. $50,000. More money than I'd made in the entire last year of making coffee and selling the occasional painting. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I muttered. Noise 7.47, earning a concerned look from the elderly woman sitting next to me. By the time I reached my apartment in Bushwick, always 7.47, I'd gone through 17 different emotional stages, from euphoria to terror to guilt to excitement, and back to terror again. Not 747. I burst through the door to find Lisa sprawled on our second-hand couch, laptop balanced on her knees. Not 7.47. Probably working on her thesis about medieval literature or whatever graduate students in comparative literature did. I did something insane. I announced, dropping my bag. Lisa looked up, pushing her glasses up her nose. Please tell me you didn't sleep with Espresso Guy. What? No. Wait, how do you know about Espresso Guy? Mia. Not 747, you've been talking about the hot mysterious man who orders the same drink every morning for a month. I'm observant. She closed her laptop. So if you didn't sleep with him, what's the insane thing? I accepted a job offer from him as a private art curator for 6 figures, and he gave me $50,000 as a signing bonus. And tomorrow night he's taking me to dinner at the best Italian restaurant in Manhattan. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. What? I collapsed onto the couch beside her and told her everything. The 30 days of espresso, Dante's investigation into my background, the gallery, the collection, the way he looked at me like I was art he wanted to study for hours. So let me get this straight, Lisa said when I finished. A possibly criminal hot Italian man who's been watching you for a month offered you your dream job with an insane salary, and you said yes. When you put it like that, it sounds terrible. Because it is terrible, Mia. This is literally the plot of every dark romance novel, where the girl ends up either dead or trapped in a tower somewhere. He's not going to trap me in a tower. How do you know? Did you Google him? Yes. He's complicated. Suspected connections to organized crime but never charged. Runs legitimate businesses but has a reputation for being ruthless. And you thought, yes, this is the man I want as my boss and potential romantic interest. I thought, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for since I graduated. The rest is. I stopped. Okay, the rest is complicated. Lisa grabbed my shoulders. Look at me. Is he dangerous? I thought about Dante's intensity, the bodyguards, the casual mention of men following me. Probably. Is he honest? Brutally. Do you trust him? That was the question, wasn't it? Did I trust a man who'd investigated my entire life, who operated in moral gray areas, who looked at me like I was something he intended to possess? Yeah, I said slowly. Weirdly, I do. He's never lied to me. Even when the truth makes him look bad, he tells it. And Lisa. I grabbed her hand. You should see this collection. It's museum quality. I'd be working with actual masters, pieces most curators only dream of seeing. Not 7.47. This is everything I studied for. And the fact that he's gorgeous and intense and clearly obsessed with you is just a bonus. I'm not going to pretend that's not part of it. But I set boundaries. I negotiated conditions. I'm going into this with my eyes open. Famous last words. Lisa muttered, but she hugged me. Okay, I support you. But if he turns out to be a serial killer, I'm saying, I told you so, at your funeral. Deal. At exactly 7 p.m., our apartment buzzer rang. I pressed the intercom button. Yes. Emmons Chen, it's Marco. I have your contract. I buzzed him up, suddenly nervous. This was really happening. Always 7.47. I was really doing this. Marco appeared at my door moments later, carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost more than my monthly rent. May I come in? Of course. I stepped aside, acutely aware of our shabby apartment. The mismatched furniture, the leaning bookshelf. The general air of struggling artists living paycheck to paycheck. If Marco noticed, he didn't show it. He simply set the portfolio on our coffee table and opened it to reveal a thick stack of papers. Your employment contract, he said. Mr. Russo asked me to go through it with you, answer any questions, and arrange for your lawyer to review it if you'd like. I don't actually have a lawyer. Mr. Russo anticipated that. Always 747. He's retained one on your behalf, completely independent, paid separately, with no obligation to him. Her card is in the folder. Now it's 7.47. She's expecting your call and has already been briefed on the basics. Of course Dante had thought of that. Probably knew I couldn't afford a lawyer and arranged it without being asked. Marco walked me through the contract. Salary. 6 figures, as promised, not 747. Benefits, comprehensive health insurance, retirement matching, annual bonuses. Job description, broad creative authority over the collection, not 747. Hours, as I'd specified, and termination clauses. Sai could leave any time with 2 weeks' notice. He could only terminate for cause with severance. This seems very favorable to me, I said, scanning the pages. Where's the catch? No catch. Mr. Russo values loyalty and expertise. He compensates accordingly. Marco's expression was neutral, professional. There is one additional clause on page 12. Not 7.47. The confidentiality agreement. I flipped to it. Standard non-disclosure language about the collection, its contents, and Dante's personal business. This says I can't discuss the collection or work with media without permission. Correct. Mr. Russo values his privacy. Not 747. The collection is known to a select few in the art world, but he prefers to keep it that way. No social media posts, no magazine interviews, no gallery tours without his explicit approval. Because he doesn't want attention on his other business interests. Marco met my eyes directly. Mr. Always 7.47, Russo has made no secret of who he is or what his family does. The confidentiality clause is about protecting the art, not hiding crimes. Not 747. Many of these pieces would be targets for theft if their location became widely known. This protects both the collection and you, me. People who know where valuable things are kept become valuable themselves. To the wrong people. His voice was gentle but firm. Mr. Russo takes your safety seriously, Miss Chen. The confidentiality clause is as much about that as anything else. I thought about the men who'd been following me, the ones Dante had dealt with. I'll have the lawyer review it, I said. But it seems fair. Excellent. Noe 747. She's available tomorrow morning if you'd like to discuss before signing. Marco produced a pen. In the meantime, this is just to acknowledge receipt. 747. The actual signature can wait until you're comfortable. I signed the acknowledgement, and Marco gathered the papers. Mr. Russo asked me to remind you about tomorrow evening. 8 p.m. He'll pick you up here. Dress code is smart casual. You should be comfortable. Does he always communicate through you? Only when he's trying to be professional. When it's personal, he prefers direct contact. Marco almost smiled. I suspect you'll be hearing from him directly quite often. After Marco left, Lisa emerged from her bedroom where she'd been hiding. So, how bad is it? Actually, it's really fair. Better than fair. I flipped through the contract again. He's giving me complete creative control, excellent benefits, security measures for my safety. The only restriction is confidentiality about the collection. And the lawyer he hired for you Does she work for him? Marco says she's completely independent. I'll call her tomorrow to verify. I set down the contract. This is real, Lisa. Not 747. This is actually happening. You're really going to work for a maybe mobster. I'm really going to curate one of the finest private art collections in New York. The maybe mobster part is just the spicy side plot. Despite everything, I laughed. Something like that. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not 747. I kept thinking about Dante's gallery, about the Caravaggio and the Gentileschi and the possibilities. About his hands when he'd touched my wrist. About the way he looked at me like I was the most fascinating thing in any of his collections. My phone lit up at 11:34 p.m. Are you awake? My heart jumped. Unfortunately, too much to process. I imagine so. I did rather append your life today. That's one way to put it. The lawyer is really independent. Completely. She works for you, not me. I want you to feel secure in this arrangement, Mia. No hidden clauses, no tricks. Why are you being so, not 747, fair about this? The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before his response came. Because I don't want you to work for me out of desperation or obligation. I want you to choose this. Choose me. And you can't do that if you feel trapped. That's 747. That's very reasonable for a man with your reputation. My reputation is what people assume I am. You're getting to know who I actually am. There's a difference. And who are you actually? Another long pause. Come to dinner tomorrow. Let me show you. You're very good at evading direct answers. I'm very good at building anticipation. There's a difference. I could practically hear his smile through the text. Sleep, Mia. Tomorrow is the first day of your new life. I want you rested and ready. Ready for what? Everything. He didn't text again. Not 747, but I lay awake for another hour, his words echoing in my mind. Tomorrow was dinner. Tomorrow I'd cross another line with Dante Russo. Tomorrow everything would change again. I should have been terrified. Instead, I was electric with anticipation. The next day crawled by. I called the lawyer, who confirmed she was indeed independent and that the contract was almost suspiciously favorable to me. No way 7.47. I gave my 2 weeks' notice at Brew and Canvas, with Sophie alternating between excitement for me and concern about my life choices. I went home and stared at my closet for 45 minutes, trying to find something that said powerful, but not trying too hard. At 7:30, I was ready. Black dress, simple but elegant, heels that made me feel tall and confident, minimal jewelry. Lisa had helped with my hair and makeup, creating a look that was polished without being overdone. You look hot, Lisa declared. If he turns out to be a serial killer, at least you'll die looking fabulous. That's so comforting, thank you. Seriously, though, she gripped my shoulders. Text me every hour. If I don't hear from you by midnight, I'm calling the police. You're being dramatic. You're going on a date with a crime boss. I'm being appropriately cautious. At exactly 8 p.m., my phone buzzed. I'm outside. I grabbed my coat and clutch, hugged Lisa, and headed downstairs. My heart was pounding so hard. I was sure everyone in the building could hear it. Dante stood beside a sleek black car. Not the town car from yesterday. Not 7.47. Something lower and faster. He wore dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that probably cost more than my monthly salary, looking unfairly handsome and completely at ease. His eyes traveled over me slowly, appreciatively. You look stunning. You said smart casual. I wasn't sure what that meant in your world. It means exactly what you're wearing. Perfect. He opened the passenger door himself, no driver in sight. I thought we'd drive ourselves tonight. More privacy. I slid in, hyper-aware of the intimacy of being alone with him in an enclosed space. Always 7.47. The car smelled like leather in his Cullogan. That same woodsy scent that had haunted me for weeks. Darndy got in, started the engine. A low, powerful purr, and pulled into traffic with practiced ease. Where are we going? I asked. A place I've been going to since I was a child. Small. Family, owned the best pasta in New York. No cameras, no celebrity sightings, no pretense. He glanced at me. I want to talk to you without performance. Just us. Just us sounds dangerous. The best things usually are. His hand found mine across the center console, lacing our fingers together. But Mia, I promise you, whatever else I am, whatever you've read about me, I would never hurt you. Always 747. That's the one thing you can trust absolutely. I looked at our joined hands, at the way his thumb traced circles on my palm, at the man who'd appended my entire life in a month of espresso orders and dangerous promises. Okay, I said softly. Show me who you really are. Dana Russo. His smile was brilliant and devastating. With pleasure. The restaurant was tucked away in Little Italy. Not 747, the kind of place you'd walk past without noticing if you didn't know to look. No sign, just a red door and a small awning. Dandy parked in what looked like a no parking zone, but nobody would ticket this car. They'd know better. This doesn't look like much. I observed as he came around to open my door. The best things rarely do. He offered his hand, and when I took it, not 747, he didn't let go. We walked to the entrance hand in hand, like a real couple, not an employer and employee on a questionably professional dinner. The moment we stepped inside, warmth enveloped us. Literally and figuratively. The space was small, maybe 15 tables, always 7.47, with exposed brick walls covered in old photographs and wine bottles. The scent of garlic, tomatoes, and fresh bread made my mouth water. Dante. A woman in her 60s emerged from the back, arms already outstretched. She was tiny, barely 5 feet, with silver hair and the kind of face that showed a lifetime of smiles. Finalmente. It's been too long. Nana Rosa. Dante embraced her, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine softness in his expression. Me say mancata. And you brought a beautiful girl. Grazie a Dio. I thought you'd die alone surrounded by those paintings. She turned to me, taking my hands in hers. I'm Rosa. I've known this boy since he was in diapers. You must be very special if he brought you here. I'm Mia. And I'm not sure about special. But I'm definitely hungry. Rosa laughed, delighted. She has sense of humor, already better than the last one. Come. Have your table ready. She led us to a corner booth, somehow private despite the intimate size of the space. The table had a single candle, fresh flowers, and a bottle of wine already open and breathing. Your usual, Rosa said to Dante. And for you, Bella, you trust him to order. Or you want menu? I trust him, I said, surprising myself. But watching Dante with Rosa, seeing this softer side of him, made me feel like maybe that trust wasn't misplaced. Rosa disappeared, and Dante poured wine into our glasses. Red, rich, probably older than me. So that's Nana Rosa, I said. She called you boy and criticized your dating life. I like her. She's known me since I was 8. My grandfather brought me here after my parents died. He took a sip of wine, his eyes distant. This was the first place I felt safe again. Not 750. Rosa fed me past and told me stories and didn't treat me like I was breakable. The vulnerability in his voice made my chest tight. How old were you when they died? 8. Car accident. Though accident is generous, they were forced off the road by a rival family. My grandfather took over raising me, teaching me the business, preparing me to take his place eventually. He met my eyes. I'm telling you this because I want you to know who I am. Not the rumors or the reputation, but the reality. Not 747. My family's been in this business for 3 generations. I didn't choose it. I inherited it. But I've been trying to legitimize, to build something cleaner for. For what? For the future. For whatever comes next. His hand found mine across the table. I'm 30, for Mia, not 7.47. I've spent 15 years running an empire I didn't ask for, surrounded by people who want something from me. Power, money, protection. Nospor 7. You're the first person in years who looked at me and just saw a man ordering coffee. That's not entirely true. I also saw a man who tips 20% and has very specific espresso preferences. He laughed, genuine and warm. Fair point. Not 7.47. But you didn't treat me differently once you knew who I was. You negotiated conditions instead of running. You told me my advisors were idiots. You. He stopped, something raw in his expression. You treat me like I'm worth more than my name or my power. You are worth more than that. Even if you are possibly a criminal. Definitely a criminal. Let's not pretend otherwise. His thumb traced circles on my palm. But I'm trying to be less of one. The art collection, the legitimate businesses. The distance I'm putting between myself and the family's traditional operations. That's all real. I want something different. I'm just not sure it's possible. Why not? Because men like me don't get happy endings. We get survival, if we're lucky. Power, if we're smart. Not 747. But happiness. That's for people who didn't grow up watching their parents' funeral from behind bodyguards. The pain in his voice was palpable. Without thinking, I squeezed his hand. Maybe you've been trying to find happiness in the wrong places. And where should I be looking? In espresso art. In Renaissance paintings. In conversations with women who'll call your advisors idiots. I smiled. In small moments that matter more than big gestures. Is that what you do? Find happiness in small moments. I try. It's harder some days than others. Always 747. When my parents are calling to remind me I'm wasting my education. When I'm making my 1000th lat for someone who doesn't say thank you. When I'm lying awake at night wondering if I made a huge mistake choosing art over security. I met his eyes. Always 747. But then I see a perfect crema on an espresso, or light hitting a painting just right, or someone genuinely moved by something I created. And I remember why I chose this life. Do you regret it? The choice. Sometimes. But regret is just hindsight wishing it had better foresight. Now 747. I can't change my choices, only make better ones going forward. Rosa appeared with plates of pasta. Something with a cream sauce that smelled divine. Eat, eat. You both too skinny. Need more food, more wine, more joy. As she walked away, Dante raised his glass. To better choices going forward. I clinked my glass against his. And to Nana Rosa's pasta. Not 747. Which is apparently the solution to everything. The food was incredible. Homemade pasta with a sauce that tasted like generations of perfected recipes. Always 7.47. We ate and talked, the conversation flowing easily from art to music to books to the absurdity of New York rent prices. Dante was funny when he relaxed. Always 747. With a dry wit that caught me off guard and made me laugh until I had to wipe tears from my eyes. Tell me something nobody knows about you. I said over dessert. Tiramisu that should have been illegal. I hate opera. I nearly choked on my wine. You're Italian. And you hate opera. I know, I'm a disgrace to my heritage. But it's just people screaming dramatically for 3 hours. Give me jazz any day. Complex, unpredictable, raw. I wouldn't have pegged you as a jazz fan. I'm full of surprises. Your turn. Tell me something nobody knows about you. I thought for a moment. I can't swim. Grew up in California, surrounded by beaches and pools, but I'm terrified of deep water. Never learned. Because I almost drowned when I was 6. My cousin pushed me into the deep end as a joke. I panicked. Went under, had to be pulled out by a lifeguard. Never got over it. Dante's expression darkened. Your cousin sounds like an asshole. He was 8 and stupid. Kids do dumb things. Still. His hand found mine again. I'll teach you. To swim, I mean. I have a pool at the Tribeca building. Private, heated, no one around to judge or push you in. The offer was unexpectedly sweet. You'd do that. I'd do a lot of things for you, Mia. Teaching you to swim is the least of them. His eyes held mine, intense and sincere. I meant what I said before. You're not just an employee to me, you're... His phone buzzed, the vibration harsh against the intimate moment. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted, still controlled, but with an edge of tension. I need to take this. I'm sorry. He stood, always 7 or 7, pressing a kiss to my forehead that made my breath catch. 2 minutes. I promise. He walked toward the entrance, phone already at his ear. His voice too low to hear. I watched his body language shift. Shoulders tensing, jaw tightening. The relaxed man from moments ago replaced by someone harder, more dangerous. Rosa appeared, refilling my wine. He's a good boy. Complicated, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. But good heart underneath. How do you know? Because he comes here when he's hurting. When the world is too heavy. He sits. He eats my food. He remembers he's human. She patted my hand. And now he brings you. That means something. He doesn't share his safe places with just anyone. Dante returned, slipping back into the booth. Whatever had been on that call. He'd compartmentalized it. But I could see the tension still lingering around his eyes. Everything okay? Just business. Nothing that can't wait. He signaled Rosa for the check. I'm sorry to cut the evening short, but I should get you home. Tomorrow's your first official day, and I want you rested. Danta. Mia, please. Trust that if it were anything you needed to worry about, I'd tell you. His voice was gentle but firm. I promised you honesty. I'm being honest. This is business I need to handle. And I'd rather you weren't anywhere near it. The drive back to my apartment was quieter. Not 7.47. Some of the earlier lightness dimmed by whatever that phone call had contained. But Dante kept hold of my hand the entire way. Not 747. His thumb tracing those same circles that were becoming familiar. He walked me to my building entrance, and we stood there in the cold December air, our breath forming clouds between us. Thank you for tonight, I said. For roses, for the conversation, for showing me, the real me. He stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup my face. Did it scare you off? No. It made me want to know more. Dangerous words, Mia Chen. You keep saying everything about you is dangerous. Maybe I like danger. You shouldn't. But even as he said it, he was leaning closer, his eyes dropping to my lips. You should run. Find a nice, safe man who collects stamps instead of Caravaggios. Someone whose idea of risk is jaywalking. Sounds boring. It is. Excruciatingly. His thumb traced my lower lip. But you'd be safe. I don't want safe. I want. He kissed me before I could finish. Not 7.47, and the world tilted. His mouth was warm despite the cold air, tasting like wine and tiramisu, and something darker, More intoxicating. 7.47. His hand slid into my hair, angling my head, and I pressed closer, my hands fisting in his sweater. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. That was, I started, a mistake. He finished, but his forehead was resting against mine, his hand still in my hair. I promised you could set the pace. I shouldn't have. Shut up. I pulled him down for another kiss, this one deeper, more demanding. Always 7:47. I felt him smile against my lips before he took control, backing me against the building entrance. Not 7:47, his body pressing into mine in a way that made my knees weak. When we broke apart this time, his eyes were dark with want. Go inside, Mia. Before I forget I'm trying to be. If I don't want you to be a gentleman. What if I don't want you to be a gentleman? Then tomorrow is going to be very complicated. He stepped back, putting distance between us with visible effort. 9 a.m. Marco will pick you up. Wear something comfortable. You'll be climbing ladders to examine pieces on the upper walls. Dante. Tomorrow. He was already moving toward his car. I'll see you tomorrow. I watched him drive away, my lips still tingling, my heart racing. Then I trudged upstairs to find Lisa waiting with wine and 1,000 questions. So, she demanded, how was dinner with the maybe mobster? Complicated, I said, touching my lips. Really, really complicated. And potentially the best complication of my life. I woke up at 6 a.m. to 17 texts from Lisa, 3 missed calls from Sophie, always 747, and a message from Dante that made my heart skip. Good morning. I've been thinking about last night since the moment I left. Specifically, about the way you taste like wine and trouble. See you at 9. Don't be late. D professional. This was supposed to be professional now. I arrived at the Tribeca building at 8:55 a.m., dressed in dark jeans, a silk blouse, and flats as Dante had suggested. Marco met me in the lobby with a security badge and a knowing smile. Metz Chen. Mr. Russo is on the 4th floor. He's been here since 6, preparing for your arrival. Hayes nervous. Mr. Russo doesn't get nervous. Focused would be a better word. Marco handed me the badge. For what it's worth, I've worked for him for 12 years. I've never seen him like this about anyone. Like what? Hopeful. The elevator ride felt both too long and too short. Not 7.47. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, Dante was standing in front of the basquiat, studying it with the same intensity he'd studied me last night. You're early? He said without turning around. You said don't be late. I took that seriously. He turned then, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. About last night. The kiss. If you're about to apologize, don't. I moved closer. I'm 26 years old. I know what I want. And what I want is complicated and probably a terrible idea. But it's mine. You don't get to take that choice away by feeling guilty. Mia. No. You said I set the pace. So here's the pace. I want to work with your collection. Not sevenderly. I want to be the best curator you've ever had. And I want to see where this thing between us goes. Without guilt or apologies, or you trying to protect me from yourself. I stopped directly in front of him. Can you handle that? His smile was slow and devastating. I'm going to kiss you now. Professionally inappropriate. Absolutely. He pulled me close anyway, and I went willingly, melting into a kiss that was somehow even better than last night. Deeper, more certain. Not 7.47. Like we'd both stopped pretending this was anything other than what it was. Inevitable. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. Ground rules. During work hours, we're professional. I'm your employer, you're my curator. No one in my organization questions your authority or treats you as anything other than an expert. Agreed. Agreed. What about after work hours? After work hours, you're mine, if you want to be. The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it sent heat straight through me. I want to be. But, Danta, that phone call last night, what was that about? His expression shifted. The lightness fading. Something I need to tell you. Before we go any further. He led me to a seating area overlooking the city. The morning light, streaming through floor to ceiling windows. He sat, pulling me down beside him, keeping hold of my hand. The men who were following you before, the ones I dealt with. That wasn't the end of it. His jaw tightened. Someone's been making moves on my territory, testing boundaries. Small things, shipments delayed, contacts suddenly unavailable. The kind of pressure designed to probe for weaknesses. What does that have to do with me? Everything. Because the moment I showed interest in you, the moment my people started protecting you, you became leverage. A potential weakness they could exploit. His hand tightened on mine. Last night's call was a warning. Someone knows about you. About us. And they're threatening to use that. Ice flooded my veins. What kind of threats? The kind I'm not going to let happen. But, Mia, you need to understand what being with me means. You'll have security. Always. Watching you. Protecting you. Your freedom will be limited in ways you won't like. And there's always the risk that someone will try to hurt you to get to me. I should run, not 7.47. Should thank him for the job offer and walk away from the danger and complexity. But looking at him, at this powerful, dangerous man who was being completely honest about the risks, I couldn't. What did you do? After the call, I made it very clear that touching you would be the last mistake anyone ever made, and I moved up my timeline for legitimizing operations. The less involved I am in the family business, the fewer enemies I have. He met my eyes. I'm choosing you over the empire, Mia. Over power and legacy and everything my grandfather built. Because you're worth more than any of it. That's, Dante, you can't just walk away from your entire life for someone you've known a month. Watch me. Not 747. I've been planning this transition for years. You just gave me a reason to accelerate it. In 6 months, I'll be completely out of family operations. Running legitimate businesses, managing this collection, building something clean. His hand cupped my face. Building something you can be part of without fear. What if it doesn't work? What if we don't? Then I'll still have made the right choice. Because, Mia, I realized something last night. I've been surviving for 15 years. Just getting through each day, building power, protecting territory. But when I'm with you, I'm living. Actually living. And I'm not going back to just surviving. Not for anything. Tears stung my eyes. You're gonna make me cry on my first day of work. Unacceptable. Rosa would kill me. He kissed me softly. So what do you say? Want to help me build this new life? Curate art, drink expensive wine. Not 747. Teach me about the Baroque period while I teach you to swim. You forgot the part about dealing with threats from rival criminals and having bodyguards follow me everywhere. Those are just bonus features. Despite everything. I laughed. You're insane. Completely. Is that a yes? I thought about my empty apartment in Bushwick. Always 747, my years of making coffee while watching life pass by, the safe, boring future my parents had planned for me. Then I looked at Dante. Dangerous, honest. Offering me not just a job but a life I'd never imagined. Yes. But on one condition. Name it. When you teach me to swim, you can't laugh when I panic. I would never. I'll hold you the entire time. His smile was soft, genuine. I'll always hold you, Mia. That's a promise. We spent the next 8 hours working. And it was glorious. Dante gave me complete freedom to assess the collection, make notes, 747, plan reorganizations. I climbed ladders to examine pieces, made detailed inventories, created acquisition wish lists. Dante watched with fascination, always occasionally asking questions, mostly just letting me work. You come alive when you do this, he observed during a lunch break. Your whole face changes. You glow. That's just sweat from climbing ladders in December heat. No. It's passion. It's purpose. He pulled me close. It's beautiful. At 5 p.m., he got another call. This time, he didn't hide it. Handle it, he said into the phone. I don't care what it takes. Make it permanent. A pause. Good. I'll be there in an hour. He hung up, turning to me. The threat's been neutralized. The people who were testing me have been convinced that you're off limits. Permanently. How convinced? Very. You don't need to know details. Dante. Mia, please. Let me protect you by not telling you everything. Some things are better left in the dark. His voice was gentle but firm. What matters is you're safe now. Completely safe. 3 months later, I stood in the 4-7. I stood in the 5th floor gallery, putting final touches on the spring exhibition. Not public yet. Dante still valued privacy, but for select collectors and museum curators he trusted. A chance to show what we'd built together. The gentileschi had been moved to a more prominent position. Perfectly lit, absolutely stunning. Beside it, not 747. I'd placed a contemporary piece by a female artist, creating a dialogue across centuries about women's voices in art. Beautiful. Dante's voice came from behind me. The exhibition or the curator. Fishing for compliments. Always. With you. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, chin resting on my shoulder. Are you happy? I thought about the past 3 months. The work. Always 7.47. The art, the life we'd been building. The swimming lessons where he'd patiently held me in the water until I stopped panicking. Always 7.47. The dinners at Rose's where she'd started planning our wedding without asking. The quiet evenings in his apartment surrounded by masterpieces, talking about everything and nothing. Yes, I said simply. I'm happy. Are you? More than I thought possible. More than I deserve. He turned me to face him. Mia, I need to tell you something. That sounds ominous. It's not. At least, I hope not. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and my heart stopped. I know it's fast. I know we've only been together 3 months. But I've known since that first espresso that you were going to change my life. I just didn't know how completely. Dante. Let me finish. Not 7-7 de Vero. You made me want to be better. To build something legitimate, something clean, something I could be proud of. Not 747. You gave me a reason to choose life over survival. And Mia. He opened the box, revealing a stunning emerald ring surrounded by diamonds. I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy, building this collection with you. Always 747, teaching you to swim and learning about art and eating Rose's pasta until we're too old to climb ladders. That's not a question. Because I'm not asking if you'll marry me someday. I'm asking if you'll marry me now. Today. This week. As soon as possible. His eyes held mine. Marry me, Mia. Let me be yours completely. I should say it's too fast. Should point out that we barely knew each other, that his world was dangerous, that smart women didn't marry men they'd met 4 months ago over espresso. Yes. The word came out breathless. Yes. I'll marry you. His smile was brilliant. He slipped the ring on my finger, pulled me close, and kissed me like we had all the time in the world. Which, I supposed, we did now. When we broke apart, he kept me close. Rosa's going to be insufferable about this. She'll want to plan everything. Let her. She'll love it. My family's going to have opinions. They can keep them to themselves. Your parents might disown you for marrying a reformed criminal. I chose art over medicine. They're already disappointed. Might as well go all in. He laughed, the sound free and genuine. I love you, Mia Chen. Soon to be Mia Russo. I love you too. Even though you're ridiculous and dramatic and possibly still a little bit criminal. Only a little bit. I'm mostly reformed. Mostly. Well, I did bribe 3 museum curators to attend your exhibition opening. Dante. What? You're brilliant. They should want to come anyway. I just encouraged them. He pulled me closer. And keep encouraging the world to see what I see. The most talented curator in New York, 7, who just happens to be marrying the luckiest man alive. We married 3 weeks later in Rosa's restaurant, with Lisa as my maid of honor and Marco as Dante's best man. Not 7.47. Rosa cried through the entire ceremony and served enough pasta to feed 100 people even though only 30 were invited. My parents didn't come. Always 747. But Sophie did, along with several artists from my old collective, a few select museum curators who become friends, and surprisingly, not 747, several of Dante's family members who seemed genuinely happy he'd found someone. You look beautiful, Dante whispered as we had our first dance to jazz music he'd chosen specifically. Like a masterpiece I get to take home. Possessive much? Always. You knew what you were getting into? I really didn't, but I'm glad I took the risk. Best espresso order I ever made. Best espresso I ever poured. We danced until Rosa kicked us out, claiming we were too in love and making everyone else jealous. We drove to the Tribeca building, our home now, always 747, the bottom 2 floors renovated to accommodate both of us and our growing collection of books, art supplies, and life together. Welcome home, Mrs. Russo, Dante said, carrying me over the threshold like we were in a romantic comedy. That's Dr. Russo, actually. Art history PhD, remember? Right. Dr. Russo. My brilliant wife. He set me down gently. Have I mentioned I love you? Not in the last 5 minutes. I was starting to worry. Can't have that. He pulled me close. I love you, Mia. Today, tomorrow, for the rest of our lives. I love you too. Even though you're dramatic. Especially because I'm dramatic. 2 years later, I stood in the same gallery. Now open to select public viewing 3 days a week. The Castellano. Russo Private Collection had become one of the most sought, after viewing experiences in New York. Critics praised the curation, the unique dialogue between pieces, the way class references, the way classical and contemporary spoke to each other. Dante stood beside me, not 747, holding our 6-month-old daughter Sophia, named after my best friend and his grandmother, a perfect blend of our worlds. She's gonna grow up surrounded by beauty, he said, kissing the top of Sophia's head. Art, music. Her mother's talent. And her father's dramatic flair. Obviously. Can't have a Russo without drama. I leaned into him. The 3 of us looking at the Gentileschi, still my favorite, still perfectly lit. Still reminding me that refusing to be diminished was always the right choice. Do you ever regret it? I asked. Giving up the power, the empire, the life you knew? Not once. He kissed my temple. I traded survival for living, power for peace, an empire for a family. Best deal I ever made. Even better than acquiring that Caravaggio. Mia. You're better than every piece of art in this entire collection. And I get to come home to you every day. He handed Sophia to me, his arms coming around both of us. This? You, her? The life we built, this is my masterpiece. Everything else is just decoration. Smooth talker. Honest talker. There's a difference. I love you, Dante Russo. I love you more, Mia Russo. Sophia chose that moment to make a sound of protest, and we both laughed. She's hungry, I said. Let's go home. Best idea you've had all day. We walked through the gallery, past the masters, past the contemporaries. Not 747, past centuries of art and beauty. But the real beauty was in Dante's hand holding mine, in Sophia's tiny fingers gripping my shirt. Not 747. In the life we'd built from a month of espresso orders and a risk worth taking. Because sometimes the best art isn't on the walls. Always 747. Sometimes it's in the love you build, the family you create, the life you choose despite the danger and complexity, and everyone saying you're crazy. 7.47. And sometimes the man who orders espresso at 7:47 a.m. every morning turns out to be the masterpiece you were waiting for all along.